And hydrology researcher says the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam serves as a powerful example for African nations in utilizing own resource with its own finance and expertise. Hello and welcome to TBC World, the voice of Pan-Africanism. It's me, Magdalena Siyum, with the daily updates. To stay with us. Public rallies were held across regional states this morning, with thousands of residents marching on the street to demonstrate their support for Ethiopia's ongoing national reform, which began 7 years ago. These reforms were initiated following Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's rise to power on April 2, 2018. To mark the 7th anniversary of ongoing nationwide reform, rallies were organized in cities and towns across Oromia, Southwest Ethiopia, South Ethiopia, and Benshangul Gumuz regions. The demonstrations were held under the major theme, Yesterday, Today, and Tomorrow for Ethiopia's Greatness. Participants included religious leaders, elders, youth, and various community members who carried banners voicing their support for the government's reform agenda as well as peace and security efforts. They reaffirmed their commitment to strengthen the economic, social, and political progress achieved since the reform began. The nationwide rallies underscored public backing for Ethiopia's ongoing reform process as the country moves forward with its transformation agenda. Ethiopia is commemorating the 7th anniversary of the 2018 political reform, a transformative shift that reshaped the nation's governance and ideological landscape. The reform, spearheaded by Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, aimed to expand political space, strengthen democratic institutions, and move away from long-standing power structures. As government officials reflect on the legacy, they acknowledge the progress made in the past 7 years of reform. Johannes Fentaun has the following account.
Ethiopia observes the 7th year anniversary of the 2018 political reform that redefined the nation's governance and ideological direction. Led by Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, the reform aimed to create a more open political environment, promote democratic progress, and dismantle the long-standing power structure that had dominated Ethiopian politics for nearly 50 years. In recognition of this occasion, prominent government officials, including Prosperity Party Deputy President and the Prime Minister's Social Affairs Advisor, shared their perspectives on the reform's legacy. Speaking on the pushing factors of the 2018 Ethiopia's political reform, the party's Deputy President Adam Farah mentioned human rights violation, injustice, and absence of democracy.
The first one is the violation of human rights and other rights of equality. Before the reform, there was a system in which many human rights were violated, vast amount of unlawful detention, and inability to provide legal protection for all citizens. These injustices lead the population to insist reform. The deep-rooted economic injustice and absence of democracy were also the pushing factors for the reform.
The Prime Minister's Social Affairs Advisor, Daniel Kibret, who believes that the 2018 reform marked Ethiopia's first major political shift that did not originate from the so-called the 66th generation, proclaims this reform sought to introduce change through a new leadership philosophy that distanced itself from the entrenched political culture of the past. According to Daniel, in this reform, the government has recognized multi-ethnic status of the nation.
This change acknowledges that our unity transcends nationalism, that nationalism does not undermine our unity, and that our unity remains a powerful force. Moreover, our community embodies beauty. Additionally, the reform government is committed to reinforcing and deepening this recognized unity.
Highlighting the achievements of the reform government, specifically in the political realm, Adam Farah underscored the reforms that have been undertaken to strengthen democratic institutions and opening up of the political space.
ከተወሰዱት የሪፎርም እርምጃዎች መካከል ቀዳሚው የፖለቲካ ምህዳሩን ማስፋት ነው።
Among the key reform measures taken, the first focuses on expanding the political space to foster an environment conducive to ideological discourse. This has involved the release of political prisoners and the return of exiled politicians. Additionally, efforts have been made to ensure the independence of democratic institutions.
ኮሚሽን፣ እንባ ጠባቂ ተቋማት፣ ምክር ቤቶች በነጻነት እንዲሰሩ
As Ethiopia marks this milestone, the political landscape remains complex. The path forward will require continued commitment to democratic principles and a collective effort to ensure that as Ethiopia marks this milestone, the political landscape remains complex. The path forward will require continued commitment to democratic principles and a collective effort to ensure that the transformation initiated in 2018 leads to lasting change.
The head of the Prosperity Party's International and Public Relations, Biqila Hurrisa, asserts that political reforms have reinforced national unity, empowering citizens to take an active role in Ethiopia's affairs. He emphasized that breaking down barriers between ruling and opposition party have created a more inclusive political space, enabling broader citizen participation and shaping the country's future. Goshu Meliso has more.
Following Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's rise to power on April 2018, Ethiopia has undergone significant political reforms. Notably, efforts have been made to reconcile political divisions, enhance governance transparency, and encourage inclusive development, marking a transformative shift in Ethiopia's political landscape. Approached by EBC, the head of the Prosperity Party's International and Public Relations, Biqila Hurrisa, stated that political reforms have strengthened national unity and empowered citizens to actively shape the country's future.
Previously, some political elites made unilateral decisions on national affairs. This era has ended, and a new political culture has been introduced. Following significant political reforms, citizens are now able to actively participate in shaping their country's future. These reforms have strengthened national unity and empowered Ethiopians to engage in critical national issues.
He emphasized that the reform process has dismantled divisions between ruling and opposition parties, paving the way for a unified national political platform that encourages citizens' participation and benefit.
At critical junctures, political parties in Ethiopia have consistently placed national unity above ideological differences, particularly during times of both external and internal challenges. These recent political reforms have built on these traditions by creating a more inclusive environment, allowing opposition parties to actively participate in the government's structure. This shift not only strengthens the democratic process, but also ensures that all voices, regardless of political affiliation, are part of shaping the nation's future.
Reflecting on Ethiopia's political history, he pointed out that for the first time citizens were invited by national leaders to return home and collectively address political challenges.
The Joint Council of Political Parties has created a shared platform to foster consensus on key national agendas and set common directions. There is a strong focus on building an institutional and culturally rooted democratic system to strengthen Ethiopia's political cohesion.
According to him, 60 million citizens have engaged in political activities under the umbrella of the Prosperity Party.
Africa faces a triple burden of malnutrition encompassing undernutrition, micronutrient deficiency, and overweight, with factors like poverty, conflict, and climate change exacerbating the issue. Ethiopia has been trying to level best to address malnutrition challenge through initiatives such as Bounty of Basket, school feeding, and increment of cluster farming, and also green legacy intervention strategies. Interministerial Steering Committee discussion on the Ethiopian food system transformation and nutrition has kicked off. The Executive Committee raised issues related and set direction to the United Nations Food System Transformation and Nutrition Summit to be held in July 2025 at Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Minister of Health and co-chairman of the Ministerial Steering Committee on Food System and Nutrition, Dr. Maqdas Daba, said on the discussion that a food system roadmap has been developed over the past 4 years to improve food system and has been implemented across districts nationwide. The minister further has highlighted that efforts are being made to reduce the malnutrition rate of children less than 2 years of age to 0 by 2030. Dr. Maqdas further has underscored that bottlenecks encountered were the lack of awareness among the community, adding that through awareness raising activities on nutrition, it has been possible to monitor 1.4 million children and obtain feedback from parents. The meeting was attended by Minister of Health, Dr. Maqdas Daba, Ministry of Agriculture, Gamamente, Ministry of Women and Social Affairs, Ergoge Tesfaye, Ministry of Education, Brahanu Nagga, Ministry of Transport and Logistics, Alamussame, and other members of the Executive Committee. A senior Ethiopian hydrology researcher, Terusawa Assefa, says GERD serves as a powerful example for African nations in utilizing own resource successfully with its own finance and expertise. The scholar underscored that Africans should promote the grandness of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam globally as a pride of Africans. Jerusalem Bezaha has the details.
Ethiopians from all walks of life have contributed to the construction of the dam, aiming at getting rid of poverty from the soil and ensuring mutual benefit with neighboring countries using their own resource and precious wealth. Terusawa Assefa is one of the Ethiopian scholars recognized globally in the field of water resource management. Speaking with ABC, a senior Ethiopian hydrology researcher, Terusawa Assefa, said the dam is not only a symbol of Ethiopia's renaissance, but also a cornerstone in strengthening regional cooperation and energy security. Moreover, Assefa said in addressing Ethiopia's energy needs by providing electricity to a significant portion of the population and boosting economic development, the dam could be a generational accomplishment.
Ethiopia for a long time couldn't really utilize its water. It produces about 86% and accounts about 70% of the entire water resource, surface water resource of Ethiopia. So when you see a dam like the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, which is going to not only bring significant economic and other developments within the Ethiopia, but within the region as well. As many knows, about 50 to 60 million people still they don't have electricity. Water access is also a huge issue all over the place. So the expectation is obviously you need a power to drive all parts of your economy. It's amazing. It's good to be alive at this time to look at such a generational accomplishment.
Related with the grandness of the dam, Assefa stated that GERD serves as a powerful example for African nations, proving that large-scale infrastructure projects can be undertaken successfully with domestic resource and expertise. He noted that Ethiopia's ability to construct such a complex engineering project without relying entirely on external financial and technical assistance.
One of the things that shocks people is the name says how grand it is. I mean, because I know the specifics, when I start to explain what it means, a lot of people like, wow. I mean, if we think about a size, very interesting. For example, if you look at only the parts which many people they see on the TV where the water overtops, that portion itself is 200 meters. So the level of construction, the level of this kind of movement, even each of the turbines, we're talking about 400 megawatt, each of them. So as the name says, most people, when we start to discuss this, they see this is really grand in the name. So one of the things that is a lesson for other African countries also is that it is possible. You can do using a public financing, basically.
As it is one of the pillars of Pan-African sentiment, as it highly signifies regional integration, cooperation, and defies pessimism against Africans. Assefa said Africans should promote and glorify the idea of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam globally as a pride for Africans.
Fact that this magnitude of work, this magnitude of project is here, I mean, completed almost, gives, if nothing else, the idea of we can do. Yes, we can also do. So that's significant in terms of, you're not going to wait, like I said, you're not going to wait somebody giving you money for today or project finance. So that it sets a very good example. So from that perspective, I think it shows a huge respect for Ethiopia, given all our history we have, like you mentioned earlier. This is another example, our time of Adwa.
As anticipation grows, the Ethiopian government has announced that GERD is expected to be officially inaugurated early in the upcoming Ethiopian New Year.
That's all we had for today's update, but before I go, let's have a recap of the top stories once again. The ruling Prosperity Party marks the 7th-year anniversary of the 2018's political reform. And a hydrology researcher says the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam serves as a powerful example for African nations in utilizing power resource with its own finance and expertise. Thank you for tuning in to EBC World, the voice of Pan-Africanism. It was me, Magdalena Sigum, with the daily updates. Goodbye for now.